Hey everybody, this is Chris Linder, and you're watching Push Entrepreneur Episode 2. And this week we have no guest host in studio at all or in video conference, so it's just me flying solo on this. We're going to take a look at two things: failure and how I'm dealing with that, and then also big decisions at risky times with no help. So, check it out. Here we go.
Entrepreneurs in a place to be, you gotta push. Yo, keep up the faith, but move hastily. Push. Live out your passions and take your dreams. Push. Yeah. Overcome struggles and celebrate victories. Right. Push.
So this week, I know we've got a couple of clips we're going to show here just with some of the things we had going on, but it gets to be where you're dealing with some of these things that I think the biggest thing is what's the takeaway? And the takeaway at times, is just not always what we expected it to be. So, if it's a good, if things are going great, it's easy, right? We figure out what the takeaway from that is, how we won, how we succeeded. Sometimes when things don't go the way we wanted to, it can be a little bit more difficult to find that takeaway. So, I'm just going to take a look at some of the things back from what we've had going on here in this last week, and I know that we've got a couple of clips here to take a look at, and we can kind of dissect some of those. So let's just take a peek.
Minneapolis from our Houston trip down to see how our venture is going down there with the mitigation team down there working the floods from Hurricane Harvey, and sent trailers and guys down, a bunch of equipment, been rounding up and sending down, had a lot of contacts that were set up to bring in a lot of work for us and whatnot. And after a couple of days being down there, basically made the decision to pull the pin and call it a bust, and kind of cut the losses and roll out, and I hope to play another day. And so we dumped out, and we're back in Minneapolis licking our wounds a little bit and going to move on and look for the next big thing. So that's how it goes sometimes.
And when I say grind it out at this point, what I mean is that we'll try to do 10 to maybe 15 jobs in the next 30 days.
She keep asking me why you gotta act like that. No, I love you, that's true. You ain't gotta be you. She keep asking me why you gotta.
Imagine everything you owned was on the curb.
No, I love you, that's true. You ain't gotta be you.
Yeah, so we go down to Houston. Our mitigation company goes down to work the floods, and that's what this clip's all about. And so, basically in this industry, how it works is a hurricane comes in, and opportunities start coming your way, based on the different connections you have in the industry, and you never know when it's coming. It's not like we got much warning. You get a little bit with the hurricane, it's coming, it might hit, but essentially at the end of the day, it's your own hurricane, because man, I'll tell you, we get the call, Harvey's coming in, it's gonna hit all these different places in Texas, and you don't know which place is gonna be the worst, and you gotta figure out, can you get the resources put together in time, based on, what you have going on right now that day. We're a fully functioning business in multiple different states, and Texas actually isn't one of them. So, we gotta make a decision if we're gonna if we're going to pull guys, how many of them we're going to pull to send, if we've got enough equipment available, and if we do, how are we going to get it down there, the whole logistics of everything. You have to figure out, where a guy's going to stay. There's no housing. I mean, 1 million people have been displaced. They're in all the hotels. So, we had to figure out, will we be able to get the hotel rooms, enough housing for people? for our people. Are we going to need to buy? I mean, we're looking at buying campers, and renting campgrounds to put people in. Where do we store our equipment while we're down there? Our trucks. We've got all these vehicles that are loaded with different equipment that's valuable stuff. So you bring it down to a hurricane. You got to make sure all your stuff is secure. And then the biggest part of it is you got to figure out, is there going to be any money to be made? Am I going to struggle to get the jobs, or how are we going to get the jobs? And now you got all your different contacts calling you. Hey, are you guys going to come? Are you on your way? You headed down? Can we count on you? We've got this many clients. They're in need. So you don't really necessarily know who's really got what they say they got. Meaning, if I've got different contacts of mine that are saying I've got 100 clients, as soon as you get here, you're going to have this many projects to do right away. You try to have to vet that, whether or not how accurate that is, and whether or not they're really going to pan out to be as big of jobs as they said they are or not. And you just have to start reverse engineering that, figure out is the money going to be there, or does it make sense? So you've got all that going on, plus there's a small window. You got to make these decisions super quick. It's a right now kind of thing. If we're going to pull all this together and mobilize all this, you do not have much time to think about it, and you're going to be forced into a decision. So, literally gathering up multiple vehicles, trailers, hundreds of pieces of equipment. I've got pieces of equipment that are 5 states away, so we're going to have to, send somebody with a truck and trailer and go get, the additional equipment that we have just sitting in another location that's going to be needed for something like this, because our everyday operations, our everyday offices they're not equipped for all that. So, they've got enough equipment to do what we do, plus some extra, but not the hundreds and hundreds of extra pieces. So, we have to make a decision on who's going to go do that, and with the jobs we have going on right now. So it gets pretty crazy. So eventually we made the decision to go, and we mobilized everything, got all the equipment together, and then literally everything started falling off apart. The wheels were falling off the bus as we're getting ready to go. So, and it was from one thing to the next. We had brand new trailers that the trailer that was just came in, and it drove halfway across the country, and the leaf springs broke on the bottom of it, and because of that, then we had bald tires or uneven tires. So when we got the leaf spring fixed, then we took a look at the tires before we put it on the road and realized we need all new tires for this trailer, and this thing's brand new, so we had just bought another trailer to make this haul, so now you haven't even left yet. You've got all this money into this trailer, big cargo trailers, and then you've got the breakdown, with the leaf spring and the tires, trying to figure out, coordinate, and then just get the time, let alone the money. We got to get it in to get it fixed so we can get it back on the road because we're going. It started getting crazy right there. So that made it interesting, because then now you're thinking maybe this isn't the right thing to do. Maybe it's not worth all this extra headache. But we push on and make decisions. So we're getting things lined up. Everything from we got to get a new phone number for a local phone number down there for clients so they can reach us locally. We've got to get all the housing stuff in place. So we get all that figured out. We've got manpower down in that part of the country. So we gather all them up, figure out where they're all going to stay, and we go for it. And our company that is heading out there, we've got trucks leaving from Minnesota, so heading all the way from Minnesota down to Texas. So along the way, we've got what do we have doing? Two sets of flat tires and another leaf spring. So yeah, we broke another leaf spring on that trailer while we're there, and so things get kind of crazy. So the clip what we see here is my guys are already down there doing their thing, getting going, and I flew in about 4 or 5 days later to survey the situation. And for us, a lot of our contacts come from a specific side of the restoration world other than the water damage. It's from the roofing side of the world. So the people who were down there working this that had all these clients and all these referrals, at the same time, as some of you may know, Hurricane Irma was coming into Florida. Well, what had happened was Irma hit, and a lot of those contacts, because Irma was much better for roofing than Harvey was, they started working Irma and started making plans to move, and a lot of what we were there to do started falling by the wayside. In addition to that, we had people who they didn't have their insurance money yet. They weren't sure what to do. They weren't sure what direction they were going to go. They couldn't make a decision. So, where we're prepared to be down there doing 15, 20 jobs a day, we're looking at maybe doing 15, 20 jobs total and just rolling out of there. And my guys, when they go into these situations, they sign up to be a part of a catastrophe team where they're willing to travel and either leave their families. They're doing it because it's a great opportunity to financially to get ahead. So apart from what their normal day-to-day pays them, when they go on these big trips like this and go over a catastrophe working around the clock, we make it very beneficial for them to be there. Otherwise, it's just not worth taxing them out. We don't want to burden our resources like that if it's not worth it. If they don't feel like they can have an opportunity to get their family further ahead in life by adding $20,000-$30,000 to their annual income for a 1 month worth of work, and that opportunity quickly became obvious that it wasn't going to be there. And so the decision that I ended up having to make here was, do I stay here and grind it out and just kind of recuperate the money it costs to get into this? And certainly we can do that. We can grind it out. We can do the jobs, recuperate our investment, and then go back. But that's probably going to take the same amount of time as it would have taken to do the whole thing. If it was, it's still going to take just as long. It's not as if we're going to do less jobs in a shorter amount of time. We're just only going to do a couple of jobs at a time versus 10 to 20 jobs at a time. So for me, we're busy in our other places. So the decision became, what do I do? Am I going to keep going on this way, recuperate my losses, which is the natural thing to want to do. You invest all this money, you want to get it back. So in this scenario, that was my decision: stay and recuperate our money, or go home, lick our wounds, and call it what it is. And so for me, it really wasn't that difficult of a decision, because the way I look at things when I'm going in is, if I'm going to go do this, I have to know what I'm willing to leverage. So how much am I willing to put in to get there just to have the opportunity? If it doesn't work and I never get a single penny back, that I'm still okay with. So I go into it knowing that if I can be honest with myself as a business owner, that it isn't there. I'm not hanging any emotion on this, because we all want it to go well. But if it isn't there, then I have to be honest with myself and pull out, because in the long run, it's about our company down the road, and I'm not going to risk anything more than what I had planned to, and put the company in jeopardy trying to hang on and recuperate some investment. So for me, I chose to pull the guys out of there. We talked. We may even go to Irma, instead, because calls are pouring in. Guys, get to Irma, get to Florida, and at the end of the day, maybe that was the right decision, maybe it wasn't. But for us, we had made that initial investment. We were good with it. We decided to pull it, and to just push right into the next one would have been a little more reckless than I'm willing to be at the moment. So, we pulled back, and what we had to do is we had to figure out, how to learn from the failure. And so in this scenario, I feel like, what I bought with that initial investment is I bought the failure that came with it, and what I learned from that going forward is really invaluable to me. And sometimes, the win comes from the money that you make off of things, and other times it comes from the failure and the lessons that you learn. And they're hard, but that's an education that I bought, that it's so invaluable to me that I can't even begin to explain. I haven't had this situation present itself before exactly in this way, but I now know the things that I need to do to be looking for that next time and how to prevent that. So I take that and I pool with other previous experiences, and hopefully the next time when I decide to go into something, that's out there, that's on my radar, and that's something I can cross off the list that this is exactly why this didn't work. And if I know exactly why it didn't work, not just that it didn't work or I believe that this is why it didn't work, but if I can really break it down as to why it didn't work, then I've got something really good. So that's kind of the experience that we had there, and it's one of those things. It's humbling. You don't go into things to lose. I don't go into things to lose, but I lose a lot. We fail a lot, but we try to learn from that and turn that into something that we can use for future. So let's take a look at this next clip here. If you want.
Right.
If you feel like it's going to get some traffic and you're worried about it, like getting torn up over time and stuff like that, then the thing to do would be cover it with rocks, like gravel.
Like a little pea gravel or something.
Go over the whole thing.
Yeah.
Gravel. Yeah.
Going to be interesting today. We're going to try to get this machine down into that hole, into a crawl space, without injuring anybody. We got to get in there because we're going to move a bunch of rocks and stones that are down in there, and then we're going to bring a bunch of gravel in. So as we get a little closer here, we'll get some more detail on it. But I'm a little bit nervous.
So. Yeah, so in this, we've got a project that we've been working on, and it's it's kind of a wild, crazy project from the standpoint of we've got a building that's 160, 170 years old. It's a historical building to the city that it's in. It's a really important part of that city, and the thing flooded and it's terrible. So it's a church, and it's got a big space underneath the sanctuary that's dirt floors, and then you've got other corridors and hallways and rooms and meeting rooms and conference room stuff that's all flooded out. But we've got this crazy situation where there's false walls behind things from really old construction from the early 1800s, and we're having to do all, now that we've torn it all apart and cleaned it all for mold and dried it out for water. They want to have us do some more things just to better the space for future. So, the pastor had me in, and he's talking to me about doing a new crawl space floor, and we've got this big dirt area that I was talking about, and we're talking about lining that out with a poly barrier and then doing a crawl space rock ballast on it. But the issue is now here I am, and I've got to get all this rock down into that basement. So you're talking, thousands and thousands of square feet of floor space, and I've got to get all this rock down there once our plastic's down. Well, to scoop and shovel all that and drag it and spread it is, not exactly appealing. Not that it can't be done, but so I get the idea that I'm going to rent this machine that we don't typically use that's going to allow me to, pick this gravel up with a bucket and drive around and dump it. But I've got to get the machine down in the basement of this church that's 160 years old. So now what my plan is I build a plywood ramp down this little set of stairs that goes in through the cellar, like a cellar door, into this basement. And literally the machine, we measured before we rented it, is 1/4 of an inch more narrow than the doorway. So it will go through there. But the other part of that is the stairway is just so steep that, going down this is going to be crazy. And it's a walk behind machine, and it's big, it's super stupid expensive machine that, for us to use just for the half a day that we need it, if something was to go wrong, it would be terrible, So as I rent the machine, the guy at the rental shop says to me, if this thing should tip somehow, and he has no idea what I'm about to do with this thing, so he says if this thing should tip somehow, it starts at about $4,000 just to try to figure out, what's going on with it, and then the repairs would come on top of that, and you could probably figure they're going to be at least that much again on top of it to fix it. So here I am. We flip this thing going down this stairwell. I'm out $8-10 and I'm standing there looking down the chute going, man, this is the decision I'm going to make, but there's nobody here telling me, one, if it's going to actually work, and two, am I going to flip it, and when I get it down in there, am I going to have other problems, and how in the heck am I going to get the thing back out of there, is the next thing that's going on my mind. And I've got 8 of my guys, I got truck drivers and skid steer machine operators, and I'm down there, we got all these people standing by. This church takes up an entire city block, so we got traffic being blocked. We're dumping jump loads full of gravel. It's go time. There's no turning back at this point, so I got to own the decision and figure out, how to do it. So what we couldn't see in the clip, which would have been the best part, was we had to tie a chain to that machine I was driving down in the basement and hold it back, counterbalance it back with another big machine so that it, didn't tip into that hole and get stuck in there. So we did that, and we lowered it down. It actually went pretty smooth. We got it in there, and we did our thing. We got that all spread out, and we drove it up out of there, loaded it up. Everything went great. But the biggest thing is these sometimes these decisions are so stinking hard to make from a standpoint of, yeah, in my mind, I think this is going to work. But I can be honest, I've never done this before. And there's nobody here telling me that, yeah, you're fine. This is going to work just fine. And it's all on me, So, as entrepreneurs, that's pretty much the way it goes, right? So we, that's our pretty much an everyday thing. We're making decisions all day long, and sometimes they're a little bigger than just us, And if I make a bad decision that affects this venture a little bit or this or that, but stuff like this sometimes, I got a historical church. I slide down this thing wrong, and it takes out one of the columns underneath the sanctuary floor. Can you even imagine, what would that be like? So, that's kind of what this week is about, is finding, how to deal with failure and how to fail forward, which is, like I said, it's, kind of its currency, right? It's that I bought that failure and I can use it as trade later on. So I'm going to trade that currency as I need to. I'm going to use it again and again and again. And sometimes it's the best currency you could possibly have, because I'll have that forever. That knowledge will be there for me forever. So that education that I get from that failure, that's so invaluable that way. Money comes and goes, but sometimes these experiences are what you have, and that'll make your company money for a long time to come if you can leverage it the right way. So with that, and then just decisions on how to handle some of these things with moving forward on when the repercussions might be big on bringing a machine down in the sanctuary of a church, but below the sanctuary of a church. But that's what we got this week. So we'll see you in the next episode.
Elevate your thinking and listen to Chris Linder. Life can be peachy cause he's a great mentor. Tap into your potential, push through the victor, and cut off the victim mentality that sickens.